Now we'll take a look at how to set up a snow contract that's billed by the push. And this is also a pretty easy contract to set up. It's just that you have a decision to make on whether you want your crews to determine what threshold of push. If you do billing differently for a 0 to 2 inch push versus a 2 to 4 inch push versus a 4 to 6 inch push, then you just have a choice on whether you want your crews to tick off what kind of push they did, or whether you just want your crews to say, hey, we did a push, and then you guys in the office can determine afterwards what billing threshold that'll be at, especially in areas where you get a lot of lake effect, or any areas where you have high variability in snowfall. You may decide it's easier to just have the crews track that they did a push, and you can determine later how much it was. Let's go through that, and I'll show you all the different ways to do that. I'm going to skip past job info and go right to task. We'll assume you've set up your job correctly. Now, because this job is billed by the push, my task can be pretty simple, and especially if I have a simple site where I've got the same driver doing the plowing and the salting. Again, I don't like to differentiate that because it creates confusion and easy mistakes for the drivers. So I'm just going to leave that very simple. You don't want to set up here plow 0 to 2, plow 2 to 4. But that's not the role of a task. A task is simply a way to track the time. You want to know how many hours you spent plowing this site. You don't necessarily care how many hours you spent at a 0 to 2 inch. If you did, by all means, you could set it up that way, but that might be overcomplicating it for the driver, who's going to have to determine as they clock in how many inches that they're plowing. And to be honest, when they're clocking in, they may not even know how many inches it's going to be. It may fall all night. So I'd avoid that. I'd keep this pretty simple. If you have a dedicated walks crew and a dedicated salt crew, as we talked about in the other videos, by all means, you can set them up separately. But I'll just show a simple example here. Now, the hourly rates, because we're billing by the push, there's no hourly rate, so you're not charging by the hour, so we can skip this. We don't need any hourly rates. Jump to activities, and this is the critical part for tracking billing when you're doing by the push billing. So I have two choices here. I can make it really simple for the crew and just say, hey, look, just track that you did a push. We'll determine afterward what the value of that push is. Or you can decide to have the crews track whether they did a 0 to 2, a 2 to 4, a 4 to 6. And you can assign a dollar amount to each one of those. The crew won't see that, but it's for your reporting. It'll automatically show you later what the value of that snow event was and what the value is to each customer that you need to invoice. So let's go through both ways of doing it. I'll start with the simple way. The very simple way would be to add an activity to this job. And now I've already got it set up, but you'd hit add new if you don't. I've got a task down here called plow complete. And then in brackets here, I have to be determined. So what that's basically saying is we did a plow. The value or the size of that plow is to be determined. You can see above it, I've set up ones for 1 to 3, 4 to 6, 6 to 8. And I'll show you how to use these in a minute. But if I only wanted the crew to say, hey, we did a plow, and I don't want them to make the determination on what the size of that plow was, I'll use this one. So I'm going to say, yes, we track a plow complete. And I don't need to track quantity on a plow. It's either we did a plow or we didn't. It's not 2 plows or 3 plows or anything. That's not like bags of salt that you're going to track a quantity. And then over here, we can choose whether it's not billable or per unit or per application. Now, in this case, it's not billable because we are going to charge for this plow. We just don't know how much yet. So I'm going to set it to per application, but I'm going to leave the price at 0. The price will be determined by the office after the event when we make the determination of what size event that was and how much we're going to charge for it. So I'm going to click OK, and that's how this is going to look. Plow complete. We're not tracking any quantities. We're going to bill it as per app, and we've got a 0 rate. So when the crew clocks out of this task, they're simply going to be given the choice to tick off whether they did a plow or not. There is an example. You might, maybe a salt truck went, so they didn't do a plow, so they're not going to tick off. Or maybe it was just an inspection. You can track time against a job without doing a plow. That's what tasks are for. Tasks are going to track every hour we spent at this job. Whether we did a plow or not is here, and that's where that's going to be set to plow complete. And of course, you could add your salt in here as well. I'm just going to keep this focused on tracking by the push. Now, what if you do want your crews to track what size of push? I'll delete this. I'll get rid of this one. And let's take a look at how to set it up now so that if I want the crews to pick what size push they're doing, I need to add activities. And I've got some set up already. Mine look like this: plow 1 to 3, plow 4 to 6, plow 6 to 8, plow 8 plus. And if you've got a different threshold because it's a customer who has 1 to 4 and then 4 to 8, by all means, create a new one. You can set up as many of these as you want. In this scenario, I'm going to assume these are the 4 thresholds we have. Now, again, I don't need to track quantities because we're just tracking whether we did a push or not. It's yes or no. It's not a quantity issue. Then we're going to track billed as. So it's not billable, billed per unit, or billed per application. Well, I'm not charging by the bag or anything, so it's billed per application. And then I have a different price for each billing threshold. 1 to 3 is $280. 4 to 6 is $350. 6 to 8 is $400, $450. So I'm going to click OK. And now what this is going to do is save those 4 thresholds in here so that when my crew clocks into this job and then ultimately clocks out of it, it's going to prompt them which kind of plow they did. Now I'll quickly add salting as well, because maybe you want to track whether you did an app and whether you salted the walkways. I'll click those as OK, so those are in there. Let's take a look at what this would look like on the timesheets for our crews. So here we are in the timesheet. When the crew does clock in, they're going to see this by the push snow sample job, and that's the job I'm working on. Your job would be named properly, of course. They're going to clock into that job. They're going to pick who's there. It's myself. And then it's obviously the date and time, and I'm in. Now, it didn't even ask me what task I'm on because I only set up one task on that job. Now, when you clock out of a job where you are tracking plow thresholds, this is what it's going to look like. It's going to ask me, did I do a 1 to 3 inch plow? Did I do a 4 to 6, a 6 to 8, an 8 plus? So when the crew leaves the site, it's basically saying, what did you do while you were here? So if it was a 4 to 6 inch plow, I'm going to click that on. And if we also salted, I'm going to turn that on. And if I did the walks, I'm going to turn that on. If I did want to track how many bags, I'll put that there. Task notes could be whatever it is I want to put in there, whether it gets tracked, and save. And then now what that's going to do is register an event in our billing. So when this crew has completed this timesheet and it's submitted, when I go to LMN Time and I run a report and I go to billing, we can do a billing report on that job so that we can see exactly how much we billed and what plow threshold it was. So I'm going to look at a different site here because I've got some old data that'll apply to that site. And yes, it's in July. It's just a sample. So when I look at that, this is what this would look like. Monday, July 21st, we went and did plowing. Here was the weather. And it says plow. We did a 4 to 6 inch plow. We did 1, and it was billed at a rate of $350. And so that's my billable rate. And then there on the 22nd, we did another 4 to 6. 23rd, we did a 4 to 6. On the 26th, we did a 1 to 3. That's how it's going to look on the back end when you generate your billing reports. And that's pretty much it. That's how to set up a snow contract that's billed by the